Present. Declaration of conflicts of interest. I believe we had any this evening. Ceremonial matters. We have none. Items from the public, not agenda items. If anybody has anything that is not on the posted agenda, now would be the time to bring that before us. Seeing no one. Agenda items, when item comes before us, if you'd like to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments under 3 minutes. Public hearings, we have none. Item 9, consent calendar. Item A, approval of warrants. Item B, approval of minutes of the October 10th, 2006 regular meeting. Item C, adopt resolution number 2006, a resolution authorizing the implementation of retention schedule guidelines for citywide records and approving the continuous disposal of obsolete records. Under approval of warrants, I'd like to pull item number 031343, which is a bill for Valley Parts service, which I work there 2 days a week. Pulling that item, is there anything else that needs to be pulled? Do we have
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And Tim, if you'd like to do the warrant item 031343.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So approved.
Thank you,
Mayor
Tim.
abstain. You're welcome.
Item 10 on the regular business, Groves Island Airfield update. Supervisor DeMartini.
Good evening, Mayor Fennessy, council members, and Jim DeMartini, County Supervisor for District 5. Tonight, I have some county staff with me, and we are going to give you an update on where we are with the prospective Naval Air Base development. As you know, the county has been working on this for a number of years, and we're just starting to get the ball rolling now. I don't know, I'm a low-tech person, so.
Okay. As you know, this is a very unique project. 1,500 acres that was given to us by the military. It is unique in that it has runways for aircraft. It has a rail spur alongside of it, and it has a very close proximity to Highway 5. We think that this is an ideal location for industrial development, and we've been working towards this goal for a few years now. This project, if it's developed properly, we think will stimulate economic growth and provide good paying jobs for the residents of this area. There are many obstacles to overcome financially. It costs a lot to do this, and there is a plan to we have to plan for the infrastructure that goes into this air base, whether it's roads around it, improving freeway interchanges, perhaps making some changes to the rails, bringing a rail spur into it. We don't really know yet exactly what it is we're going to do, but there's water that has to be brought into it, a sewer system has to be put in. So it is a very large project and a complex one. We are just getting going now with the request for proposals that have been sent out. We have 2 proposals in, and a committee will analyze these. I know your mayor is on that committee, and then they will make recommendations after reviewing these. The proposals only came in a week ago, so I haven't even looked at them yet, but I'm not on the committee that does the analyzing of them. We will talk tonight about the process that we're going through and the timelines that we would expect for development of this air base. With me tonight, I have brought Keith Boggs from the Economic Development Department of the CEO's office, Kirk Ford from the Planning Department, and Ron Freitas, who is the department head of the County Planning Department. So they will present this to you, and we will be here to answer any of your questions. The county plans to be very upfront about what we intend to do and where we are, and a realistic timeline of what we expect to get done. So with that, I will turn this over to Keith.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Supervisor. Keith, nice to see you.
thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak with you this evening about Crow's Landing. Judy, just one click. This first slide, I think, is pretty telling for the community and certainly for you policymakers. And it, I think, leads nicely from Mr. Supervisor DeMartini's closing comments with regards to being inclusive and being transparent. In August of 2005, the County Board of Supervisors, in essence, gave staff these marching orders to create a regional job center that provides good paying job opportunities for Stanislaus County residents and for the region. So that's really our marching orders. Next slide, please. What we'd like to do this evening, what we hope to accomplish this evening, and we will take just a little bit of your time so you can get to your business, is to speak to the project update, property management issues, some of the partnerships, speak to master planning, the conceptual reuse scenario, how we have gotten to today, talk briefly about the request for a proposal or the RFP process with master developers, and Kirk will speak to that process, and then speak briefly about next steps and answer any questions that you might have. Next slide, please. The project update, first of all, when Stanislaus County took ownership of this property via Public Law 106-84 in October of 1999, signed by then President Clinton. It took some time for us to take ownership of a goodly portion of the property. The property had some cleanup issues. Back in the 40s and 50s, the U.S. Navy thought it rather grand to wash their military engines with solvents and what have yous, and there was quite a significant cleanup process that needed to transpire. It wasn't until October of 2004, public law was granted in October of '99, it wasn't until 2004 that we were actually able to take title of approximately 1,354 of those acres. There are 1,520 total. It's left us about 177 plus acres that are still owned by NASA, with the responsibility for cleanup to the U.S. Navy. So you've got GSA and U.S. Navy and NASA, multiple federal and state agencies. You can only begin to imagine the process steps that staff and our political leadership have gone through over the course of the last half dozen years to get to where we are today. So we are very excited. But part of that process included an agricultural outlease. Michelina Farms were the ag tenant, and their relationship was with NASA. So we inherited an agricultural lease on that property, an agricultural lease that expired at the end of calendar year 2005. So about a year and 2 months of that lease was transferred from NASA to Stanislaus County because we realize that there are some cleanup issues, because there's planning and process involved with getting to development, that development that Supervisor DeMartini spoke to. We went out with RFP to seek an extension, or a new 3-year extension to that agricultural outlease. Pride of San Juan, a Chase the Sun quasi-organic farming entity out of Hollister, California, won that RFP. And they are farming and have been farming since the first day in January of this year, 2006, and will be there through the end of calendar year 2008. That's given us that 3-year latitude to do the planning and the process that we're going to speak to in detail this evening. This is a very unique project area in that much of the planning and the cost to do that planning is being paid for by the project area. California Department of Forestry, many of you, the citizens here, saw some of the movement going on last July on 2 occasions out at the air facility when the canyon fire transpired. And the California Department of Forestry came in under a mutual aid agreement for 4 days and then subsequently came back for another 11 days and brought in, quite frankly, a tent city. And were able to quell that extensive fire in the Del Porto Canyon. And the county, through a mutual aid agreement, allowed that activity to transpire. It was just strategic to get to the actual canyon where we were happy to help. Over 2,000 firefighters, 2 mobile kitchens, literally a tent city, went up in a matter of 6 hours on one Friday night. I stood in amazement and watched this thing come together. And the extent of that concrete on the tarmacked area is all they utilized. And once you start to put all of that process on that tarmac, it starts to really give you a real vivid sense of just the expanse of this area. Nowhere did they get near the runway area, did not impinge upon our ag lease and our tenant relationship. And so that was a very, very interesting operation. Altamont Trade Corridor, there are discussions afoot, about 120 plus days young, with multiple public agencies seeking a joint application for infrastructure dollars via the I-bond bonds that passed just last Tuesday, overwhelmingly throughout the state of California, 1A through E. $19.925 billion are available, a goodly portion of that for Northern California, for rail and for light rail, passenger rail, short-haul cargo, and for highway infrastructures. So we are part of that conversation, as are the ports of Stockton, ports of Sacramento, the Port of Oakland is a player, the Alameda Corridor people are there, StanCog, San Joaquin COG, Sacramento COG. There's a whole lot of entities. Actually, a very interesting collage of regional players at this table as we ramp up to take that application forward. And then finally, the supervisor spoke briefly to this, but I will mention it again. Community forums, we have been out to the community. We would like and hope that we could come back and see you regularly and share with you our progress forward as we attempt to make a stellar, world-class regional job center for those commuters of your community, of Patterson, those 13,000 plus people that belabored, some of them 2+ hours both ways every morning over that darned Altamont Pass, and what it does to our local communities and our quality of place. And we'll definitely come back. That's my opener. I tried to be as brief as I could, but you know, I could talk about this stuff for a week. I will introduce now Mr. Fergus, our planning director. Ron will talk to you about the guiding principles, some of the things that we've, our marching orders with regards to reuse, and then he will pass it on to Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Kirk, or Keith, and Mayor Fantasia and members of the council. We're here, and we have, we think, a very exciting project. One of the things, when we began this process through the Crow's Landing Advisory Committee, was to develop guiding principles. The steering committee gave us these principles, and they're very important. I think I'll go through them. Protect the facility from incompatible land uses, set aside land for runway expansion, look toward multimodal transportation, distribution options, integrate ground distribution, capitalize on the proximity to Interstate 5, maintain the sensitivity to surrounding communities, improve the infrastructure and services for the community of Crow's Landing, and develop an attractive entrance and presence, creating a positive statement for the area. And with that, we set out and asked, the first thing we did was ask the question, what if? And what if we used different types of uses? We had different acreages, acreage yields, a mix of uses at full build out. We have 2 runways out there. And with that, we'll move in. This, as you can see from the aerial photo, you see the 2 runways, one in a northeast southwest configuration, the other one in a northwest southeast configuration, and they cross about a quarter of the way down. So in asking the question, what if we eliminated one of those runways? And what if we added a parallel runway? So we had The first alternative that we came up with, and I think you went, can we go back? Okay, to the first one. The first one that we came up with was just the status quo. And what is the yield out of that status quo? The area that you see in color, it's all in color. That was kind of a silly statement. But I'll come over here. This is Fink Road down here. At the north end is Marshall Road. You can see Highway 33 slashing across the side. This is Bell Road here, and this is Davis Road on this side. And the property, if you're familiar with it, kind of follows through here, around and up. Thank you. It follows around, down, Bell Road, back down to Fink Road. And at one time, there was a connection to the railroad into this area. And one of the, you'll recall, one of our guiding principles was to develop something that has multimodal: rail, truck, and air. We have air, or the ability to accommodate air transportation. We have the ability to accommodate truck transportation, and with some work, we should be able to accommodate some rail transportation. So we developed a concept, or had our consultants develop one concept, and this, just utilizing the existing facility, would yield about 464 acres of area for industrial development or business park development that you see in these colors in here. That still allows the two runways going in the different directions, and also accommodates about 70 acres up in this vicinity for rail. And that rail could be utilizing containers coming over from the Bay region, putting those on the rail cars, or putting containers on rail cars and taking them to the Bay region for that port facility. In this scenario, about 335 additional acres may be needed for full build-out, and those would be taken off, added towards the ends of these two runways down in this area. The next one was the second concept, and we spoke about adding or trying something what if. So in this one, the second concept, we eliminated the northwest southeast runway and just had the single northeast southwest runway, and then added a parallel runway to it, again at full build out. That gave us a yield of about 477 acres, a little bit of an improvement in terms of industrial land, but it did not accommodate any kind of rail transportation. There just was not enough room up near where the rail line is to bring that into the site. And only about a total of 79 additional acres would be needed for full build-out. And that would be the third option that we looked at provides the greatest yield of developable land. And this one eliminated that north-south runway and went to the northwest-southeast runway. And this runway, by the way, is 7,000 feet long. The City of Modesto City County Airport, their runway is about 7,000 feet long. So I'll give you kind of a scale of how large or how long that runway is. But this one yield 818 acres of developable land in large blocks. You have an entire large block area here that is developable for business park land, and then you end up with a large block of land down off of Fink Road that is also eligible for industrial and business park type uses. So This one has the greatest yield, also has the greatest need for additional acres, in that as we are looking at full build-out, we're looking at extending this runway possibly up to 10,000 feet, which would require some additional lands off the ends of the runway, one, to accommodate the runway, but also to accommodate the clear zones. So as we go through this process, we will be evaluating the three alternatives, but with the greatest emphasis on this alternative, the third alternative or third scenario, which would yield 818 acres, plus also provide the ability for rail up in this area of the site itself. Those are our three scenarios that we have developed. We think they're very sound, and the next step in the process is the creation and the development of our plan concept and bringing on partners to implement the concepts that we have developed. And with that, I'll introduce Kirk Ford, who can explain that process to you.
Good evening, and thank you very much. As Ron said, the next step, and we've actually gone several steps down the line here since we started this process, is we felt it was necessary. The government's done this. We, the county, and our steering committee sat around and looked at this project, and we thought, this is what we think is a really good idea. But it was time to get some private partners involved, because they're the ones that are going to be building out here. They're the ones that are going to be developing the area. The government's not going to be the one that develops the industrial business portion of this. It's the private industry and the entrepreneurs. So on October 2nd of this year, we went out with a request for proposals for master developers. We gave them about 30 days to put a proposal together for what they thought, their vision of how they would develop this site. That ended, I believe, November 6th. The proposals were due November 6th. We had a pre-bid meeting, went through the whole process. We received two proposals back from two very, very different master development entities. Tomorrow morning, we meet again with the Crow's Landing Steering Committee, which includes members from the west side, members from each of the board districts. Your mayor, I believe, is on that committee. Includes members from the city of Patterson as well, from the Alliance, from the west side at large as well. And then on November 20th, next Monday, we have a selection committee that's kind of a subcommittee of that steering committee. And again, your mayor's on that subcommittee. It also includes a representative from the city of Patterson, again, members from the Alliance, county staff, and members from the Crow's Landing Steering Committee and from Crow's Landing at large. And what we're going to be doing on November 20th is looking at those proposals that we received and critically reviewing them, looking at how do they match the guiding principles that Ron had talked about. How do they match what it is that we want to put together here? Maybe first week in December, we're going to invite one or both of these entities back for interviews and presentations. We don't know yet because I don't know what that subcommittee is going to come up with next Monday. And then we're hoping by December 19th to get back to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation from that selection committee. And just to give you a little outline, real brief summary, because I haven't gone through these things with a fine-tooth comb yet either. We did receive two proposals. One of them was from a Texas company, Hillwood, which is a Perot company. The other one was Pacific Coast Capital Partners West Park Limited Liability Corporation, headed by Jerry Camillos and Pacific Capital Partners. One, the Hillwood team includes specialists from Gensler Architects, which is a very large multinational architectural firm, excuse me, and the planners from EDAW. The other one includes specialists in master planning, transportation, logistics, technical studies, etc., CEQA compliance folks. They're very, very different proposals. Some of their sample projects that they've got, the Hillwood company has done the Alliance, Texas air facility, which is just north of Fort Worth in Texas. They've also done right at the airport there. They've also done Alliance California, which is at the San Bernardino Airport. Very similar types of facilities that we're looking at here. The other company has done projects at Metro Air Park and College Park at Mountain House, and Woodland Park in Woodland. Mariposa Lakes project, I think, was mostly a residential and some commercial development in Stockton. So they've got two different approaches. They've got two very different ways of looking at this. And again, tomorrow we're going to share that with the steering committee, and then Monday is really the key, where the whole subcommittee gets together, the selection committee gets together, and really analyzes these things, and we banter back and forth, and I'm sure there's going to be some pretty good debate over where we go from there. And at that point, we decide whether we bring them in for interviews, and hopefully we get back to the board by December 19th. At that board meeting, we were hoping to do a second phase RFP, where we asked either one or both of these folks to spend a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, come up with a specific plan for the site, get more down and dirty, give us some real numbers, some financial numbers on what you think it's going to take to do the infrastructure, what you think it's going to take to develop this area, what types of buildings, what types of product you think you might have available, and give them probably 60 to 90 days to put a much more detailed plan together, and then come back to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation. All the time, again, keeping that selection committee and the Crow's Landing Steering Committee in the loop, very definitely. At that point, we're looking sometime around April of 2007, March or April of 2007. That's when we had hoped to start entering into negotiations with a master developer, have the Board of Supervisors make a determination on which, if any of these two, they want to go forward with. Although we may be at that point on December 19th. We don't know. I just don't know what the status of that selection committee's recommendation is going to be. I know that you guys have a lot of questions. Everybody has a lot of questions about what's happening out there. You know, what's going to impact, how's Highway 33 going to be impacted? How's Interstate 5 going to be impacted? How's your community going to be impacted? And we really don't have those answers yet, because we don't have a very specific project. We've got colors on a map is basically all we have at this point. When we get to a point of having a project that's developed, a project description, that's when all those environmental questions gets asked, and they can be answered. So at that point, that's when the serious questions start getting asked and answered. What are these impacts going to be? We don't have those answers yet, but what we do have is, again, we've got what we think is a very, very good idea for development of this piece of property. We've got two very, very different proposals, and we've got this selection committee that's going to be meeting next Monday to make a recommendation. And with that, that's what the next steps are. That's where we're at, and we are all here ready, willing, and able to answer any questions that this council may have of us.
Questions?
Yeah, I had one question. I think you talked about 170 acres that still need to be cleaned up, and that'll be cleaned up by the Navy. Are those areas isolated, or are they just throughout the whole property?
Yeah, if you could go back to the map of the site. Right here. This area right in here, right where the existing buildings are, that's pretty much the area where most of the cleanup needs to happen. We do have some isolated parcels, one up here by an old sewage treatment facility, and one out, is it out over here? Yep. It's an old dump site that need to be cleaned up, and those are just about done, and we expect to have those smaller isolated parcels transferred to us relatively shortly.
Oh, excellent.
The other big area, it's going to take a while for the Navy to get their facilities picked up.
The administrative area off of Belleville Road, right mid-purple dot there, that's about a 30-acre parcel. It's where the tower and some of the old buildings are. That's the primary dirty zone. There's about 5 other smaller areas, 2.5 acres, 11 acres, 4.7 acres, that are coming along very nicely and rapidly. In all fairness to the U.S. Navy, they would just as soon have us off their back and have this thing cleaned up and be done with it. They've been very, very progressive. And as Kirk said, those other smaller pieces, very much like Swiss cheese. We're trying to connect the dots and clean this up so that we have contiguous reuse land because it becomes more attractive for the industrialists.
Thank you. My other question, would it make sense to have a green belt around this whole project to keep people coming in from building in that general area? Would the county think of something like that?
That's a master development issue. When we get to having a specific plan for the area, we'll see what gets proposed. You know, we certainly have opinions about buffers between agricultural use and industrial use. We certainly want to keep some type of a buffer between what's our production agricultural areas surrounding this site and the industrial development that's going on there. I just don't know what it's going to end up looking like at this point in time.
Thank you.
If you go to the concept of the single runway, the additional land, is that part of the property now, or will that be property that you have to buy?
We would have to purchase, you can see that if you expand the runway areas, and the full build-out that we're talking about is expanding the runways to, I think, about 10,000 feet in length, both of them. That's at an ultimate 50, 80 years from now, maybe, if you need two 10,000-foot runways. You would need to purchase areas outside of the existing footprint of the site.
Just add one thing very quickly. Full build-out is a potential. The market would have to bear the interest, and that passion would have to be there for it to pencil out. So the conversation about 10,000-foot runways and a future for that kind of build-out, it's there so that that expansion and potential can be spoke to, but that's, at this juncture, speculation.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Ken, yes, go ahead.
Is this going to be, airport going to be a 24-hour operation, or is it going to be basically daylight hours, or what have you planned, or have you not thought about it yet?
The specifics we don't know, but I can probably say with fair confidence that it will be a 24-hour-a-day operation.
I would suspect it would be, because most of your work is going to be done at night.
We don't know what type of businesses are coming in here at this point in time.
Transportation.
One could assume that, yes.
Further questions? Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kirk, Ron, Keith. I believe Keith is up next also with an update on our Stanislaus County Travel and Tourism Roundtable.
I will be very, very brief. Last time I was with you, I asked the question, what you might possibly think was the revenue generated out of travel and tourism in Stanislaus County. And I believe this wise gentleman on the edge of the table said $11 million, and another person said, no, it has to be closer to 8. And at the end of the few moments that we spent together, I shared the reality of $371 million in 2004. I had the good fortune this evening to have my dinner here in the fine city of Newman, and your downtown and that redevelopment area is absolutely fantastic. It's a vibrant, I couldn't find a spot, place to be. And you get it. That West Side Theater of yours is just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And I'm starting this evening with you. I plan to go to all city councils, and I'm on my little soapbox tour. It'll take me probably through the middle of February. But there's something I've prepared I wanted to share with you that I think very quickly will speak to the issue of tourism and its importance, if I can find it here. We've been called, we being our communities, the Valley of the Poor, by our very own Modesto B, methamphetamine capital of the world, home to tire fires, floods, mosquito viruses, and political scandal. The San Jose Mercury News just 26 months ago called us the hidden ghetto. It's true. We're infamous for the incidences of Chandra Levy and Gary Condit, and of course the international attention derived from the Scott and Lacey Peterson tragedy. None of us travel, professionally or personally, without at some juncture having to explain the circumstance, the reality of life in our community. Am I right?
You're right.
Not every car is stolen. Not every politician corrupted.
That's right.
Can I get a second? Not every day 115 degrees hot, and not perpetually engulfed in flame, fire, or bird flu. Perception, image, our story, our stories have a way of telling themselves. As an economic developer, as a business person, as educators, marketers, advertisers, scholars, as community members, we need to begin to take a better stock in those messages. How we are portrayed, perceived, imagined, matters. Regional tourism, a wonderful collaborative effort, public and private entities, businesses in the tourism niche, cities, Judy, a founding member, come together on a monthly basis, now in its 7th year, 8 initiatives telling the story. Tourism dollars are export dollars. People come to our community, they have a soda, get some petrol, buy a couple of knickknacks, look at other people's walk around, because we like to watch people, don't we? And they go away. And when they go away positive, and they go away with that image of our communities as a positive one, it floats all boats. It helps us with expansion. It helps us retain our businesses. Tourism is economic development. And so I thank you very much this evening for giving me the opportunity to speak to you twice. You're off the hook for another year. That is the new strategic plan. It's a 2-year plan. All 9 cities, 3 convention and visitors bureaus, the dinner train in Oakdale, the West Side Theater, the State Theater, a whole lot of museums, and others have worked very, very hard on this effort, and we're very, very proud to be able to share it with you this evening. And I'll take any questions you might have.
Questions for Keith? Keith, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on, item C, adopt resolution number 2006, next to number, a resolution authorizing park improvements in the Sherman Ranch subdivision and authorizing myself as mayor and Michael Holland as city clerk to record a notice of completion.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. As stated in the staff report, SCM Homes of California is requesting acceptance of the park improvements of Sherman Ranch subdivision. All the punch list items, such as the powder coating of the wrought iron fence and elimination of some ponding areas at the bottom of the basin, have been completed. And attached to the staff report, there's a acceptance memorandum from Precision Inspection Manager Ray Little, verifying that all improvements have been completed as per job, job plans and specifications, been inspected and accepted. The only remaining item that needs to be completed is a minor correction of the handicapped parking space to make sure that it does meet the ADA standards. I do have some pictures for you of the park. This is William Ray Sherman Park. And there's the handicap ramp that needs a slight modification to it. There's the playground facilities. And then basketball court all the way in the back. And then just another open shot. It's relatively weed-free and looking really well. So staff recommendation is that you adopt a resolution accepting the park improvements.
I know I've been by there a couple times. That fence stayed okay after they took it out and powder coated it and put it back. It looked like I couldn't see any rust spots
No, no, there's very, very minor tinges of some rust, but that's
Not like it
something,
was.
no, it's not like it was before, and that happens to it, you know, you can't be able to take away every little nook and cranny, but it looks really, really well, and we're happy with it, with the work that they did.
Mayor, any thoughts to the ceremonial matters that Bill Sherman's been waiting so patiently?
Oh, that's right. Every time I run into Ray at the grocery store, he was hoping that we could dedicate it before he passes on. So he'll be happy to know that we'll have to set it up.
Okay.
Questions for Ernie?
No, I just like to thank Ernie and all those people responsible for holding the contractor's feet to the fire to make sure this thing came about, because I know we've had some problems in the past with similar parks. But good job, because, you know, this is for the city, and it has to be right, and I think it's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ernie.
I move for adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item D, adopt standards for downtown events.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As you can recall, we started this process on these standards per your request on September 12th. We brought it back to council, staff did on October 10th, and at that time we made some corrections just to kind of review some of the downtown standards that we're looking at this point. The days that we're looking at as Sundays are preferred. We're looking at if days go into 2 days events, we're looking at a Saturday or a Sunday Monday if it may allow for holiday or weekends. The hours, we're looking at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're looking at street usage for for first-time events until we kind of find out and gauge how much room they're really going to need. Looking at one block, and then due to crowd size and being able to have something behind us, some history with it, we're looking at 1,000 or left one block, and then our formula goes from 1,000 2 blocks, 1,000 or more, and then 2,000 or more will be going on to the 3 blocks. Insurance, we're making, we've adopted $3 million as our dollar as the insured insurance that would be required of the organizer or fundraiser. Security, we have a formula on that as far as what officers, and also we're taking into account alcohol and dancing and other things that may be going on that. Now, one of the changes that we had from our original staff report comes under the number 6 here, music. We're looking at 10 a.m. We originally were looking at 8, and then we're looking at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. instead of 5. That was one of the recommendations that came from council. As you can see, some of these things are as we go through here, we're looking at cleanup, we're looking at the plan, when things are going to be approved. One of the things on number 10 here, we're looking at the approval of the affected business areas. This is where we actually find out from the businesses how they're going to be affected. Originally, we were recommending a 90% of the businesses that be affected in the block that's going to be blocks that are going to be utilized for an event, and that was brought down to 75% per the council's recommendation. That would be on first-time events. Yearly events, we're looking at a flyer going out so the businesses are not caught off guard by any events that might affect their businesses in that area for a street closure. Business licenses, we're also looking at that as being something that's going to be required. Health permits, canopies, bleachers. We're looking at advertising, that would not occur before the event is approved by the council. Alcohol, we have recommendations that are pretty standardized. They have to have an ABC license, obviously, and no glass bottles and things of that nature that are in here. Crowd control devices, we're looking at things pretty much being, those things would be the cost of barricades or any other no parking signs or anything else that might be required to be able to work that event would be at the cost of the fundraiser or organizer. Number 18 here is actually, that was something that came out of from the council, and basically what the council wanted to know is if it's a fundraiser, how are those funds being utilized? they're wanting to know exactly financially how much money was raised and where those funds went. And so I believe that would be coming back to the council upon any kind of approval, so you'd be able, as part of the approval process. So when it came to the council for its final approval, you'd be able to know how much funds were raised in prior events and where those funds went to. I'd be willing to entertain any kind of. Oh, one of the other things too that came up out of the council meeting was we were trying to make a recommendation that we encourage people to utilize the park instead of utilizing our downtown for some of these events. And so, as part of the process, I put down what our park rental application has. And I know there was a couple of councilmen that had concerns about noise. It has nothing to do with the L.J. Newman building, but this has to do with our park rental. And as you can see, that amplified noise was one of your concerns, that it's not permitted except for some of the special events that are listed here. One of those, and those are city-sponsored events. The events that are being covered under these guidelines here are events that would not be city-sponsored. So one of those city-sponsored events is actually like the Fall Festival. Some of the other things that are listed here is a military band concert, awareness of safety days, and that's what they have listed. And there could be other groups that the council may deem. So I hope that answers some of the questions on that, and I will get back with you, and maybe we'll come back to the council with something on the L.J. Newman down the road. With that, I'll entertain any kind of questions. Yes.
On item 10, it takes
Yes.
a 75% approval for a first-year event,
Yes.
first-time event. Then after that, they just give them a flyer?
Yes.
There's no additional approval needed?
No, that's what we had agreed upon on the last one. And then what we're looking at is that once the event has been established, we're looking at just notification. If somebody has an objection to that, they would be made aware of that event and have an opportunity to come before the council when that was going for approval to make their voice known. That'd be something the police department would make sure would occur. So they're not blindly just it's just not just being thrust upon them. They have an opportunity to voice their opinions to the council.
Further questions for the chief? Yes, Dave.
Mike?
Yes.
It says, Councilmember Trinkwell brought up, after the first time, it's basically automatic they have that 75% approval. At times, would that go back to take another poll in case there's different merchants who take over different areas?
We didn't address that part of it, but the thing that we're counting on at this point, that if a business is being affected now, it'd be affected at that point, a new business coming in. So the awareness and having those flyers going out well in advance and having all these things 45 days, 60 days in advance of the event gives the business owner an opportunity to be able to make council meetings that are during that time period to make their voice known before the final approval.
This does not circumvent council approval.
Yes.
I want that to be known. The council still has ultimate approval over the event. It's just that we're not seeking individual business owner approval on subsequent
Yes.
events.
I'd just like to comment on item number 11, because we've debated about this when things have come before us, and that's the standardization of the business license fee. And I've probably argued on some occasion to say, why not have vendors pay that what I think sometimes is a nominal charge for a business license fee, because some of these events that have been repeated over the years are very successful, and we do incur some costs as a city, and I think it's just in some aspects fair to the businesses that have already been established, that have already continually pay their business fund or business license year after year, for vendors to actually pay that cost. And I know we waiver because we've differentiated between different affairs. So that one in particular, I think, stands out to me as a standardization. That'll be good. We'll just charge you for the business license if you're coming to town to do business. And I believe it's still $75. Am I correct on that?
$75 per year, but I think it's 33 for,
Yeah, it's like $30 or $35 for one day.
For
Yes.
one day,
For a one
right,
day
which is
permit.
very reasonable. And I know we've tried to waive that on certain occasions just so that businesses will come in, but I don't think any other city really standardizes that to waive it. They always charge. So I like seeing that one there.
and then what's nice is that way when a person wants to put on an event, we're able to give them guidelines, these guidelines right here, so they know up front what costs are going to be anticipated, what we're going to require of them right up front. So they, when they're planning their event, they'll have these guidelines to be able to draw from. No surprises.
Mike had a question on, do we have such a thing as a calendar of events as far for the year, so there's no conflicts? And maybe even possibly put that on our website. So what I'm saying, we should have something like that so we don't have a problem.
Right now, all these kind of events end up going through the police department and that's why it gets brought to the council, usually by myself. And I keep a community calendar on board to be able to make sure that we don't have those kind of conflicts. So, but the website, maybe that's something we could look into in the future.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I know the Chamber's talked about getting a website, away from the cities, because now it's just an attachment. You pull up the Chamber, but having to schedule events of everything of every month that happens in the city, which that's the goal to do that, which would be nice.
Mhm.
And that would help also. Further questions for the chief? If not, thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Some direction then?
I move that we adopt these downtown standards for events.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item E, adopt resolution number 2006. Next number, a resolution adopting a fine schedule for the administration citation process.
Thank you, Council. As you may recall, earlier this year, we did adopt 2 new code enforcement programs. One's called administrative citation, one's called administrative remedies process. Administrative remedies differs as in it's more of a land use, ongoing, reoccurring situation. And this particular one is more of a misdemeanor, a short time type thing. So what we've done as staff is combed through our municipal code and identified violations that we believe fit under the administrative citation process. We looked at the administrative code and tried to standardize a fine situation. And the way situation will work is City Attorney Hallinan over there is violating the city code. To send him an administrative citation, he has 10 days or 15 days, whatever the code enforcement officer thinks is appropriate for him to clarify that remedy. And we tell him exactly what needs to be done in order to abate that violation. After that time period is up, city staff will then go back to that site, make sure that that violation has been fully abated. If it has, then he is clear, and we will give him a letter as such. If he has not, then he is subject to this fine schedule under these terms here. Now, we will take these things on a case-by-case basis if we are seeing that people are making substantial progress. Someone's come in and said, look, I have a family emergency, I need a little bit extra time. That's something that we're going to work with the applicants when they've shown and demonstrated a willingness to comply with the administrative citation. Then we're going to work with them and do everything we can so we don't go into this fine schedule. But this is an important piece of it. We are actively working on this right now. In some of your other weekly package, you have seen the citations that will be used in doing that, the format of those, and we'll be drafting those up and getting those going pretty soon. Right now, we are currently using our planner and some of our public work staff to identify some of these problems and moving those forward. So, again, most of these fine schedule has come out of our municipal code. We did not add any additional nuisances or citations or ordinances. These are all our existing ones, and as we proceed forward, we will identify new areas that we'll need to probably update and bring them forthcoming and current. So if any council member hasn't seen other communities or knows of other communities where they've been successful in gaining compliance with some of our violations, we'd like to know about those, and so we can go out and get that information and bring it back in an ordinance form. Again, we want to consolidate that and take a whole comprehensive approach to any new ordinances that we've done. So with that, so the first is an educational notice. You may not be aware, leaving your brush out is a violation, or watering between 11 to 6 is a violation of the municipal code. Please don't do it again. Second time they do it within a year, okay, now we have the authority to issue a $50 fine. Third time they do it, we have the authority to issue a $100 fine. And then if they continue to do that for a fourth time, that fine can go all the way up to $250.
What's their recourse if they want to challenge it?
There is a course in the administrative code process that they do file an appeal. They have to pay the fine and then file an appeal at City Hall. And then there's an administrative hearing process through an administrative hearing officer.
Right, we
And
set
then
that up
that's
through contract or through someone in the city?
You know, that'll be done in-house in the city, and then ultimately they can appeal that administrative hearing officer's decision up to the city council. So there's a two-step appeal process for individuals who feel that they have not been fined appropriately.
I think this is a good course of action. I know this was brought up by Mike in terms of Councilmember Crinklaw's concern with a lot of the violations that were taking place. The only thing I would say, and think added caveat, when we start talking about the current city staff, we've always tried to like to have someone in specific rather than multiple numbers of people. So if it's the current city planner versus someone from Public Works is being distributed or who's noticing, in order for whoever's issuing the citation, I think it still would be prudent if we have one person that's responsible for that. Because all the time that we've deliberated about this, it's been who are we gonna sign, who are we gonna have, and it's kind of moved around. It was in the police department for a while, officers out on the beat may have been doing it, volunteer persons were doing it. There was no accountability for who's our code enforcement officer. And I know that we have a budgeted amount, and then within this report it talks about what we'll eventually do to have that one person assigned. But if someone's doing it in the immediate, intermediate time from the city, then I think it would be prudent if it's just one person. Other people can bring the violations to their attention, but whoever's the one that's handling the citation process or the educational notice process should be one staff member there specifically.
Yes, Councilman. We'll have one coordinator,
Okay.
and then we'll have like 2 code enforcement officers depending on where that jurisdiction falls. It could be in a public works area of expertise. It may be appropriate for that particular person to go out. It may be in a planning area of expertise. That particular person would go out and then come back to the coordinator and bring the information back to them. As you've also seen in some of your weekly updates, we have gathered software that's going to be accessible to all staff members as well as council members, and to a limited degree the public, that they can go in. Hey, I reported this, this violation 3 weeks ago. They can go to a website, when we update our website, put a link on there, they'll be able to go in and see, oh yeah, that was reported on this particular day, on this day city staff went out, and this is what happened, and then follow it all the way down the line. Now, there will be some confidential information, obviously, that can't be on that website, but it'll give a synopsis of what's going on there. And it's also being real time. So, let's say, myself, I go out and do a violation and come back and the people tell me something, I can type that in real time. So then if I'm exit out of the office and that violator then comes in and tells my planner, oh, well, Michael signed that off. She can just go in right away, type it in on what's going on in that particular violation, and see my notes and know that I didn't sign off on that. And so, that could hold up on a permit or something else. So that's going to be an important tool that allows city access and staff to come in. It's also a tool that in the long term will be able to track all the resources that we've dedicated to this, each particular project, and the code enforcement program as a totality, as a whole, and go from there. And then that way, over a period of time, the council can see whether, if there's any spikes, what our real budget needs to be, what, how's the educational process working, and so forth.
Michael, one comment. If I heard you right, the way it stands right now is you receive one warning, and the second time, then you will be issued a $50 citation.
For most cases, other than what other house has been called for in the municipal code, we have the authority to issue a fine. But it doesn't mean that we have to. We have the authority to. Again, if we're getting someone who's demonstrating a willingness to comply and is working towards it, it's not a situation that we're going to go out and fine them because, they're going to do it on Saturday and it's Thursday and it's weighed up. But, they need to be able to provide and show and demonstrate a willingness that they're going to comply. If someone's thumbing their noses at the city and basically saying, no, I'm not doing anything, then we have the authority to fine them. That's correct.
I would like to see them receive 2 warnings before it goes to a citation basis. And then basically they're telling you, we're not going to do anything about it. Then you have no other alternative but to proceed.
If that's the purview of the council, we can do that. Again, staff's position was, the education process starts. We're giving them a warning. Look, you may not know this is it. This is what you need to correct the situation, and then go from there.
I would concur with that, but I would think it would determine the violation, because some violations need to be corrected right away,
Yeah, my only
as far
thing-
as safety
oh,
and
sorry.
that sort of thing.
And that's why we say we take it on a case-by-case basis. So.
My only concern about giving the second warning is it's almost one of those things where you say, hey, look, here's the deal, we want you to take care of it. And then they don't do it, and then it's almost like the follow-up was, we really meant it the first time. If you know what I mean? It's almost like we really did mean it the first time. So I'm not sure how much more adamant we have to be about, I guess that's my only concern. If we're firm with them the first time and saying, here's your warning, I'm not sure with the second warning, how much.
Well, the other thing that we took into consideration was the reporting public. So if I give 10 days or the code enforcement officer gives 10 days to correct the situation and doesn't get done, then I got to go out and give another 10 days. Well, it's been 3 weeks. Public's not going to be real happy with, the staff. It's been 3 weeks. What the heck's wrong with the city? Why can't they get anything done? So at that point, after 10 days, we can say, well, we've already cited them once. And so that was our logic behind it. But again, the code, the council sets the program and the policies and procedures, and we're willing to do whatever it is that they ask.
These citations will be mailed, is that what, if we can't make contact with the people in
some situations,
person?
we will try to hand deliver those, and in situations that we can't, we will do it by certified mail.
Mike, what's the ramifications for non-compliance if this flat refuse? If you issue a citation, they just refuse to pay the fine?
There's a process in the administrative code that allows us to put file liens on the properties.
What's that procedure?
It goes through the county recorder's office on a regular basis, so when they pay their property taxes, it's a part of that.
Which that's like a standard for other things. We've done that for years on various things.
It's similar to what we do with other code enforcement programs right now.
And we can also use other enforcement measures if need be, if the administrative citation process doesn't work.
We send Guido
Depending on
out.
the violation.
Guido goes out. Yeah, if they don't pay your water bill, you turn your water off. Further questions? So we're going to stick to the one violation by either hand-delivered or certified
And
mail?
that was just my 2 cents.
No, I agree with you, Charles, because, if you could send them citation after citation, and like Michael said, you could keep going on forever and ever, and that's not going to work.
My only thing is
After
if-
the education period,
If they're not gonna,
one
if they're
citation.
not gonna respond favorably after the first warning,
Yeah.
then why would they respond favorably after the second warning?
Well, hopefully when they get that, they're going to be running right down or calling to want to know what they can do
Right.
within their 10 days, or if they can't, if they say, well, on the 11th day, I'll clean it up, well,
Yeah.
then, like Michael said, we'll work with them, but.
Right,
Yeah.
and it seems like you could almost give that latitude, as long as they respond to you after the first warning and they're making a concerted effort to make the fix, you know, then at least you have some latitude to say, all right, look, I understand you have mitigating circumstances, you know, we'll give you, you know, that little bit of extra time. But, you know, I think that would probably be good enough.
And just a reminder, you know, each code citation will have the correction, what the violator needs to do to correct the situation written on the notice. So it's not going to be oblique to them.
Right, it'll be explained in, yeah, exactly. Further questions, if not direction?
Move we adopt resolution number 2006, next in number, resolution adopting a fine schedule for the administration citation process.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 11, adjourn to meet as Newman Redevelopment Agency. Roll call, please.
Board Member Parker?
Present.
Marquez?
Present.
Martinez?
Present.
Kinkla?
Present.
Chairperson Panzea?
Present. We have one item, adopt RDA Resolution Number 2006. Next number, a resolution authorizing the executive director to pay off an outstanding loan for property at 1361 N Street.
Yes, this item was actually continued from the redevelopment agency's previous meeting, at which time the board asked me to make contact with the promissory note holder, Mr. John Ventura. This was all based upon some of the initial negotiations and that had gone on at the initial purchase. He had been out of town, so it took a while to get a hold of him, but once I did, he appreciated the board taking that consideration. He was not necessarily opposed to it. He wanted to talk to his accountant, bookkeeper, for tax purposes. I told him that I believe that this board was going to be willing to work with him on it, and stating that, you know, it is our goal to pay this off, but if we had to do one payment in December and one in January, I did not see that as a big issue for this community and for the board. So with that, he went out and talked to them. He's requesting that we do this in a two-payment situation, a $20,000 payment in December, and the remaining balance, which is $62,376.26 in January, and that's give or take, payment on interest on that. So we're asking that this board make a budget adjustment that allows us to pay off this loan. With the budget adjustment, it is still estimated that the balance will be slightly over $700,000 in the redevelopment agency. And this would save approximately, I think we said about $20,000.
Questions?
I'm just glad that we were able to at least go to him and at least let him know
Right.
that we were more than willing to work with him, you know, keeping our word that we'd given him.
Right, and like Michael said, I was glad that we put it off because as I thought, he was out of town and he wasn't aware of it, so
Right.
not good to do something, if somebody's not aware of it, so it worked out very well in the end, but that's right.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. We return to regular session. Item from the city manager and staff.
I am pleased to announce that next Tuesday we will be interviewing 4 design teams for our aquatic center / community center. I know this has been an important project for this council and the redevelopment agency board, that we continue to keep this on the front burner and continue to move forward with this project. I know a lot of the community members had some hesitation when we had to close the pool due to some structural defects, I guess you could call them, at the existing pool. They were they were feared that, you know, it could be 30 years, similar to what happened in Patterson. So again, I'm pleased to announce that we're going to be interviewing 4 teams, all from California. One of the aquatic designers for the actual pool portion of the project is nationally known, and they're on 2 of the teams. And so they'll be bringing somebody out from Missouri for the presentation, but the project would be managed from their Los Angeles office. So the teams, when we selected the 4 out of the 9 teams, what we used as criterion was their experience doing these similar types of projects, aquatic center type projects. Some of the architectural firms had, you know, community center projects, and they had library projects and public projects, but they didn't have an aquatic center project experience on there. We also looked at some of their examples of architecture. Some of them belong in the Bay Area, and they're, you know, don't belong in the Valley. So we believe we picked 4 teams again that would represent the Valley well. I believe all 4 have projects here in the Valley, ranging from Elk Grove up into Sacramento area, and lots of other ones. There's also a lot of good projects in Petaluma and a few other ones. So 3 of the 4 have substantial projects in here. The other one, has 1 or 2 projects here in the Valley. So they understand what we're dealing with in terms of being a Valley project, and the heat and the other experiences that we have here in the Valley that may not be associated with, you know, Southern California or those types of experiences. So we hope to have a recommendation to the council in December, but the latest would be January on who that's going to be. We're going to rank them in the 4. One of the criterion, the second phase of the criterion will be is they need to show us some projects that they've done, give us their preliminary cost estimate, and give us their final construction cost. We want to see how on target they were when they estimated what a construction project was for a city. So we don't want a team that comes in and says, oh yeah, we're going to design you a $4 million project, and then when it went out to bid, it came back at $7.5 million. That just blows communities out of the water. So we want to see who has those construction and those cost estimators on their team that can be accurate. When we know when we get a project from them, you know, it's going to be plus or minus some dollars, but it's not going to be a 50 or 60% jump on that. So we're excited.
When that recommendation comes in the ranking, you gonna rank all 4, or you gonna?
We're going to rank 4, but we're only going to get 2. The top 2 will probably give us those estimates. Yeah, and then what we'll have to do is probably negotiate some type of project scope of work, because we need to work with whoever we select. We're going to need to work with them to develop a scope of work, because we have an idea for a project, but we don't know what that project is. So we didn't want the architectural firms trying to define our project for us. We will define our project, and then they can give us a scope of work and a proposal for it, and go from there. So, still working on Regional Water Quality Control Board and trying to get a response to our September 16th letter. I know I've CC'd the council on my email that went out to Mark List. I still haven't received a response from them. I know Ecologic's working with trying to get a response from them. We're not really sure how or what form that's going to come in. With that being said, though, we will be bringing a proposal to you at your next meeting with respect to a new storage facility at the wastewater treatment plant. This is one of the first steps to expanding our wastewater treatment plant, is to expand and create a new storage facility, and that we're anticipating at this time that's going to be in the magnitude of order of a 30 to 35 acre pond. What that will do for the community is, when last year when you saw all that water that was being flooded, Lance would then have the opportunity to pump some of that into the ponds, because as you know, our ponds were really full. Our big pond storage facility was really full, so some of the water sat in our oxidation ponds a little bit longer, and so we could be able to pump that. So it's going to be a pretty substantial pond. So this is the first step towards, again, upgrading our facility. We have, through your authorization, initiated all of those master plan facilities that are going to be coming forward. And what we're doing up front is data collection, data analysis on the existing system, making some assumptions based upon what we anticipate is going to go forward in the general plan. Once that general plan is reviewed and approved by this council, then we'll be able to get some hard numbers and facts in there, and hopefully bring that, we think in the summertime, bring final reports to this council for action. So what you'll see then is probably about 2 months prior to that, we'll initiate what's called an AB 1600 report, and that will be updating all of our capital facility fees that will reflect the new costs that are going to be associated with these master plans and update those costs. So making sure that any new development is paying their fair share, and that fair share reflects the current construction cost. At the previous meeting, council has indicated a desire to look at that the Smog and Louvre lease, and probably going to have that to you at the first meeting in December. I don't know if I can get that ready at the next meeting, but that's in the works, and that's coming to you based upon council direction. And then last, there was a little bit of talk today about the website. We can put the calendar on the website, Councilman Martina. We're working with Gordon Barbosa, who helped set up our video and audio system in here, and he's gotten some direction. We've sat down with him, and so that project is moving forward right now. So we'll be going forward with that. With that, I think the only last thing is the plans are only about 2 weeks away, I think, for the Inyo project. And that's going to be going out to bid, so we hopefully be able to report back to you when that bid proposal is going to close, when we anticipate being able to bring back bid packages to you for your action, and a schedule for construction on that project. And that's all I have to report today. If you have any questions.
Have we got any public comments, Michael, about the general plan, which is out for review?
We have.
We have.
We have.
Quite a few, or no?
Yeah, and just a reminder, I don't know if you could define quite a few. It's about the number that I've expected. You know, we have state agencies that are responding. We have individual landowners that may not necessarily agree with what their designation is.
Right.
And they're responding. Most of the ones that agree with the designation aren't going to respond. They're going to kind of they're going to kind of lay low a little bit. But again, this is most of this comment period is open for the environmental impact report. It's not necessarily the comments on the general plan itself. We do have a hearing this Thursday at 7 p.m. in the council chambers for any member of the public or any agency out there that wants to supply comments on the draft environmental impact report that is accompanying the general plan. Again, the schedule for adoption and review of the general plan is January of '07. Take that to the Planning Commission. Based upon those actions, they will forward a recommendation to the City Council, and then the Council will probably have 2 meetings with the Council. One where we present it to you, allow the public to comment, and then bring it back to you at the next meeting so that we as staff can look at those comments and bring you what we feel is a response to those comments, and then request your action at that particular time.
Have any of the property owners that weren't happy with their designation indicated they were coming to the Thursday meeting, or?
Some have.
Some have.
But again, and I'm talking with David Early right now about the legal ramifications. Again, this is a comment period for the EIR, so their comments have to have some relation to
the EIR, not necessarily
They
their
can't just come in and
designation.
say, I don't like my designation on there. It needs to be able. They need to be able to tie that to the draft environmental impact report.
Right, and they'll be able to come to another meeting to
That's
voice
correct.
their opinion on if they're not happy with their designation.
Well, I don't know how appropriate it is if someone's getting up and trying to make this presentation to the Planning Commission about how our general plan is all messed up, and we haven't even, the staff and the consultants haven't even presented the general plan to the planning commission yet.
Right.
So that's why, the EIR has been given to the planning commission. We can take comment, that's a matter of record. And then what we as staff take those comments upon the closing of the comment period, which is November 17th. We respond to those comments, and then those comments and responses help formulate the FEIR, all these acronyms. That's the final environmental impact report.
Sounds good. Further questions? Other staff reports?
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. Just a couple of things. As you're probably already aware, the Newman-Gustine game was won by our staff, our team here, and with that we had a lot of parties that were going on, and we almost have our own liquor store at this point. So just kind of let you know that we were very busy that evening. They wanted to celebrate real well.
Over celebration by our...
Over celebration.
Okay.
And the other thing too is we've had, I don't know if the council members have had received complaints or not, but we've been getting some complaints regarding activities in the parks, and we're going to be stepping up our activities as far as patrols, extra patrols in those areas, and see if we can kind of bring those complaints down to a minimum. So if you receive complaints, just let people know that that we are stepping up our patrols in that area. And that's all I have. So any questions you may have?
Just real, at the game the other night, you were staffed up considerably high for just, things that could have possibly occurred?
Well, as you're probably also aware too, we also had a shooting incident, and it was gang related. Mm-hmm. We just wanted to make sure that nothing carried over into our, that was going to be a very well-attended event. We just wanted to make sure there wasn't any activities, illegal activities that would go on over there. So for safety, we did actually step up patrols. So we were, if there was there's an officer probably on every corner down there.
Yeah.
Very good.
At least.
At least. Thank you.
Chief?
Yes.
I've got an item or a couple of items. I've received several complaints about people running stop signs, and some of the areas are Jensen and 33 coming out of Sherman Parkway. They
Okay.
roll through there. I've seen them myself, particularly early in the mornings. And then also at R and YOLO, which is a school crosswalk. All times of the day they're cruising through there. And also some reports of kids naturally after school racing up and down T Street.
That's a continuous problem where,
Yeah.
our school resource officers tries to stay on top of that, so we'll continue on with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Carry on. No.
Mayor, council members, October 28th concluded our soccer season. As you're well aware of, we had the kids from the teen center helping run the snack bar for a percentage of the proceeds, and they earned over $2,000 to spend in the teen center. So we'll be holding a meeting for all the workers to help decide how they want to spend the money. At this point, we have 170 registered participants for basketball. We are in need of one coach in the third through fifth grade division boys. If anybody would like to volunteer. Tim. I've heard lots of compliments
Subtle
on
hint
your
there.
3-on-3 basketball. Practices begin the first week of December with games beginning in mid-January. On Halloween, we held a party for the kids at the teen center. We served about 28 kids, hot dogs, nachos. And normally when the time changes, our attendance drops down, but it hasn't. We're still serving probably anywhere from about 30 kids a day.
That's good.
Questions?
Take it, Terry.
Thank you.
I have 4 informational items. First, show and tell, Judy.
Show and tell.
This is the Barrington Park. As you can see in the new parking lot, we've planted some sycamore trees. They have drip irrigation lines to them so that we won't have to go out there and water them. They won't die on us. The next slide, it shows the area, this picture and the next, where we prepared the ground and we're ready to do the sod installation. It's on order. We're ready to get that completed starting Friday. We think that they can get it installed in one day. So, the next item is here at the Water Department office. As you can see here, so we started doing our foundation, or digging. And then that shows the framing starting to go up there. Then we started putting all the outside on it, and that's where we stand at now. We had our framing inspection approved this afternoon. So those are the two projects that we've got going. Also, we had some repair work done on this building, the police department roof. We had some leaks, so King's Roofing from Patterson did some repair work to the tune of about $7,800. So that should give us some added roof life to this building. And the last item was the center lines for Yolo and Inyo. We have those scheduled to be done next week. Any questions?
Are you going to be doing those, or are you going to contract that out?
I have to contract that out because their machine isn't working, and it's to the tune of about a $2,500 repair. So what I'm going to be doing is contracting it out at 20 cents a running foot, a lineal foot, and then I'm going to be requesting funds for a new machine for next year.
And with accepting the new park, how's your manpower and equipment for taking care of that, mowing the grass?
I am presently working on the requesting proposals for landscape and lighting and maintenance of the parks that are in the landscaping and lighting district. And we have to use those funds. We've got something like about $180,000 that will cover all the expenses for the mowing of those parks, which is Bush Rose Park, Janet Carlson Park, Joe Borba Park, the Sherman Park, of course, the entire Sherman Parkway, and all the existing landscape and lighting districts. So I'll probably be coming before the council for approval for to award contracts sometime in early March.
Thank you, Ernie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ernie. Item 13, items from city council members. Mike?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
I have nothing tonight.
Thank you. Charles?
Ditto.
Nothing?
You better not have anything
Clean
either.
slate.
With that, I have nothing either.
You feel some pressure.
It's been slow around here. With that, we'll adjourn to closed session. Thank you very much.